Welcome back for part two. We're going to be plotting some graphs and doing some error analysis, max min lines and the like. I've made a few changes. I've capitalised the A's in this column and this column. I've added this superscript just because I like things to look just so. I've also, you note here, my D values are on the whole, two significant figures. So here I've put log D to similarly two significant figures. In the same way, this wave speed, these are to 2, these are to 3, so to the nearest centimetre, which is fair enough given the precision I have for the time and the distance. I've simply added another significant figure here, right? Because I was finding that I was getting 4.9 for both these velocities, and since Excel was going to plot the values in any case as slightly differently, I might as well show that significant figure in my table. So I'm now going to plot log of D against log of V, and I expect to get a straight line, scatter with no line. Now, just a few things. I always get rid of this because it just takes up space. The title we can change later on. In terms of the chart itself, there aren't any vertical grid lines. Handily, Excel has a few different possibilities up here in the chart layouts bit of the ribbon. I usually use something like that. Axis titles, I'll sort those out now. So log of D, I can always make adjustments later on, but that will do for now. So it's always worth checking that log of V is on the vertical, which it is. Similarly for log of D. Okay, I'm going to change this, fix the limits of this axis by going down to by going down to, by the way, I double clicked on that vertical axis in order to bring this up. There are different ways you can format a chart. You can right click, you can double click, you can use the ribbon. I tend to use the menus which come up as a result of my right clicking, or simply double click on the object I want to vary or edit. So minimum, I'm going to go with 3.5 just to make things look use more of the graph paper. I'm going to, or graph area, I'm going to format the data series because I don't really like these markers. I'm going to change the marker type to a plus sign, maybe make them a little bigger. No, 7's okay. I'm going to change the marker line colour because I kind of prefer black, and the line style, really maybe thicken it up a little bit. Okay, so you can see that I've got there now a trend line automatically, actually. So by using this layout 3 up here, it adds a trend line. If I hadn't done that, I'd have had to add one manually. So there are two ways. I right click or select the data series, right click and then click add trend line. If you select linear, I think it does that by default, and then display equation on chart. You get some idea here of, well, you get the equation of the straight line. So you can see here that this value, which if you remember I said was my power, is close to 1/2, 0.4676. Now on its own that isn't particularly useful because we need some idea of the uncertainty on this value. So I'm going to keep the equation on the chart for now, but we need to think of a way to deal with this. Now we need to use some of these uncertainties. I can add error bars to this graph, get rid of that, as follows. If I click on the chart area and go to layout and click on error bars, there are a number of options in this menu. I don't like any of the ones they give, so I'm going to go with more error bars options. Now you can see it then gives me error bars which are far too large. Obviously we want them to go both in the positive and negative directions from our points. Vertical is log of V. Now I'm going to We could use a fixed value or percentage. I'm going to use a custom range or custom values and specify that I want the positive error value, the plus part, to be equal to my absolute uncertainties in log of v. Similarly, the negative values are going to be the same. So for instance, for the first depth, or the shallowest depth, log of v is 4.0 plus or minus 0.01. I click OK, and it will adjust my error bars to reflect that. So they are quite small, I think you'll agree, looking at these now. The horizontal error bars are going to be controlled by this column here. So again, I'm going to make sure that both are going to be included. I'm going to specify the values using this dialog box and click OK. So now you can see that my error bars are now on the graph. Okay, so if I make this a little larger, you can see that my line, as it stands, doesn't go through all of the error bars. Okay, this point up here in particular may well cause us issues later on. Now, without going back and getting further data, there are a number of things I might do for the purposes of this tutorial. One is to neglect this point and fit the line manually using the method I'm going to show you to get some idea of the uncertainty on the gradient. Okay. While I decide, I'm going to have another break and return with part 3. So we've gone in this part from the data to a log graph with error bars which are based on custom values of the absolute uncertainty for each variable respectively. Okay, that's it for part 2.